Joy Reid, she just had to provide a proper education for a caller. Here it is.
Perception does matter. Around the time of Medgar Evers, you had the signs of, Negroes and colored people, this and, all of that. Why are we still using the synonym black? There are no black people. If we're going to start calling immigrants that come through the border brown people, let's call the brown people, all the brown people, and really take hold of the narrative instead of I don't know if people have actually looked up the color black in the dictionary. It's not something, why would you want to call your children that? It means darkness, void. That's part of the discrimination. We are not black people. We are brown. And that's it. That's all I want to say.
Well, I mean, the term black came about because of people wanting to empower themselves. Because the term Negro is a made-up term that was made up by white supremacists in order to label black people who came from multiple ethnic groups and throw them all together. I don't think people understand that Africa is the most biodiverse continent. There are 2,300 separate ethnic groups on the continent of Africa. So when Africans were taken in slavery to America, you're mixing tribes that had no genetic relationship other than all being Negro. And so the idea of whiteness and blackness was invented in America. It didn't exist before the 16th century.
Oh, we have some more as well. Put up the picture full mass. So she thoughtfully gave a proper education. I love Joy-Ann Reid. Thoughtfully educated the person. This was on C-SPAN's Morning In Call program, Washington Journal. The caller talked about the different racial labels African Americans have gone by in American history. Okay? Now, here's more of Reid's response to that caller.
No white people in Europe who are all different ethnicities, whether they're Italian or Greek or British or German, they didn't call themselves white. The idea of whiteness didn't exist until this country was founded. And when Europeans came here and decided to enslave Africans who were, again, they spoke different languages from each other. They couldn't communicate with each other, let alone communicate with their so-called owners. They designated white and black as a way to delineate African slaves from indentured servants who were European. They wanted to enslave specifically the Africans. And so they invented these terms, white and black, in order to distinguish themselves from the Africans and distinguish themselves from the indigenous, who they called savages. It was literally an invention of slave owners in the United States. And so when people reclaimed the term black in the 1960s, it was because they had decided to empower themselves. It was a term that felt to them more powerful than simply using the term Negro, which had been invented by enslavers. So I don't see any problem with black. Black is a term that can mean power. It can mean beauty. It doesn't have to mean darkness and horror. It can in the linguistics of the culture of the United States, but in the culture, in terms of black culture, it doesn't mean that. And so when people say black, they mean that as a powerful term, not a negative term.
Yeah, and let's talk about the shift that took place in the 1960s and beyond. Let's put them up for a mass. If you remember, leaders like Stokely Carmichael, the big homie Kwame today, famously introduced the phrase Black Power at a Mississippi rally. Now, this was a black activist movement where black pride was instilled in the movement. It was required to understand that black was beautiful. What followed was a cultural turning point, as phrases like black is beautiful or I'm black and I'm proud began to emerge as the power center of restorative expression among black people. It revitalized identity. It revitalized well-being. The racial label African American gained popularity in the 1980s after a number of black leaders like Reverend Jesse Jackson supported its use and noted its cultural integrity. That term is still commonly used today to refer to black people. A 2021 Gallup poll found that black Americans prefer the use of black, 52%, over the use of the term African American at 44%. New terms like BIPOC and POC, person of color referring to people of color, started cropping up over the last decade in the United States as comprehensive labels to refer to anyone who is not white. Very dynamic response from our sister. She only had a few minutes to do so. Naturally, in order to get into the weeds of this, you would have to basically take a college course. But I think she did a great job knowing that this was the opportunity to teach. Rayyvana, thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Joy-Ann Reid is such an exceptionally intelligent, individual, and for her to take the time to educate, instead of maybe dismissing the comment or quickly giving a short response and brushing past it, I think was really meaningful because, as you pointed out, these are things that you are typically not taught in America until you reach college level history. But I think it's so important for people to know the history of the terms, black and white, and how they were codified originally here in the 13 colonies in anti-miscegenation laws. I believe the earliest one is from Massachusetts, although I could be misspeaking there. So we'll see people, I think even the most well-meaning progressive people will hear, that there's a seminar on eradicating whiteness, and they might, be turned off a little bit by that without, having actually engaging in or knowing the background of the fact that whiteness does not mean people who are fair-skinned. Whiteness is an ideology. It was a way to enforce racial hierarchy in this country. It's not saying we need to eradicate people who are white, but it is the mindset, it is the racism, the bigotry that comes along with what whiteness is. So, for her to take the time to explain that, I just thought was really meaningful, and really just goes to show, that she has earned where she is in life. She is exceptionally intelligent.
Very much so.